Are you okay? Everybody okay?
Yeah. How are you?
That one was
for a
not
minute.
your fiance, right?
That one was not my fiance.
I told you it was a
Clarification.
All right. One more new poem, and then I'm gonna jump into the chapbook and like.
New shit.
Okay. Fewer and different trigger warnings this time. Things I should have done this whole time. And breathe. It's gonna be okay. I believe in you. I love you. The first time I kissed a storm from a distance, I was 2 years old. My family huddled around a television, our faces a canvas for the screen to paint with glow. We watched the attack from Texas. For one glorious moment, we saw my Uncle Gary march into Kuwait, a hail of missiles drowning the earth around him, walking steady in the eye of the storm, unstoppable like the storm was. Reporters said, overwhelming, annihilation, invincible. I thought my uncle was invincible. Figured if he set to doing something, it was gonna get done. Figured the same thing about my daddy then. Something about childhood makes the people around you bigger, stronger, makes the world seem like a thing that can be fixed if the right people walk forward with storms around them. First time I thought about a storm's aftermath was next year. Uncle Gary chased Hurricane Andrew to Miami. This time my daddy went with him. My mama and I huddled around that same television. Our faces painted with glow just like they had been. We watched faces we didn't recognize, struggle to understand toppled trees and flattened houses, didn't see nobody we knew looking invincible, didn't see nothing looking invincible. Reporters said devastation, destruction, war zone. My daddy came back with a full beard and hollow eyes and hands he caught his hammer on enough times to turn him bloody. Came back with a lot of stories he still won't tell. Next time I thought about storms, a compound burned outside Waco. We watched people we knew die from a distance, watched flames spin like hurricanes, Andrew reborn, Desert Storm reborn, and my Uncle Gary wasn't there to be invincible or fix things, and my daddy watched it on the TV with his jaw set, teeth clenched, hands twitching like they were looking for a hammer to break themselves on. Reporters said cults, extremists, perverts, stockpile of arms, mass suicide. My daddy said war. Murder, David, our friends, end time, storm coming. Uncle Gary died after the depleted uranium storm he walked through, twisted his belly into an eyeless hurricane. My daddy's still waiting for that same damn storm. Same damn fire. Same damn glory. I don't stare at hurricanes anymore. Don't believe in invincibility. Don't think things can be made right. Mostly, don't think things can be made right. Still, watch things spin though. Watch them get things done. There's an art to the aftermath. Something we rebuild in all our outgrown innocence. Reporters say jaded, children, immature. My daddy says pervert, sad, lost faith. I say hammer, hammer, hammer. Fuck the thumbs. I say storm. I say hammer. I say hammer. How am I doing, Dwayne?
You got another half hour.
Oh shit, okay. Well then. More old shit. I'll do 2 more old poems. Cool. To the friend who told me it was Annex. I don't hate you. I'm not even angry. I'm disappointed. I don't know if hurt is right, or what would be, or betrayed. I've been playing, replaying everything. There are spaces I'm not sure if I can't or refuse to see. Again, when I said I couldn't remember, it was the truth, or a truth. I get it. Sometimes desperation to be touched overwhelms, or so I've been told. Thorough ghosts' hands tracing skin, bones joined under flaying shadow prophecies we've seen in our darkest sunlit daydreams. There is a hunger. There is a memory. Remember. Almost a funny word, remember. I can't help thinking of bodies, long since disintegrated, the scattered pieces fusing and refusing as if by magic. I've been thinking a lot about bodies lately, about what they do and don't and refuse, and something about fire or ash, but you got heart. 3 weeks later at a coffee shop I frequent, and we haven't read the same article. Like, we haven't sat in the same discussion groups to build safer communities. Like, nothing was any different. Like, this was just a misunderstanding to be explained away. Like, I just needed to listen better, but you liked it. I don't hate you. I've told you so many times. I've told myself. I don't. Goddamn a fit. I knew. The tablet was the wrong shape and size and color. It tasted wrong on my tongue, sliding down my throat wrong when my skin glowed, when my tongue stilled. It's just, how can I be angry about something I knew was happening? It's just, if I didn't, if I couldn't, it's such a funny word, just. How it means righteous and limitation both. How we use it to lock away people and things we prefer not to remember, to be held accountable for. And dead bones rising, throats, dry valleys, thoughts on dead things, how they dance. Doing the thing, heartbeats, I have muscles and stuff. They're attached to them.
That's chill.
Science. The stranger yells something that is not my name, and my belly clenches like it's trying to turn me into a stone, and my neck curls to bring it into my sights like my eyes were double barrels. The way gauge means measure and shotgun and pierce, all metrics for metal meeting flesh. And he says, I saw you on YouTube. And I laugh and pull my fingers from trigger guards, and he says, you used to write such beautiful poems about gay sex. Why don't you do that anymore? And I laugh and give him a line about trying to broaden my subject matter, like I hadn't already been writing from the ocean. And he laughs like a picket fence or a well-kept lawn, all choking respectable fog. And I laugh back at him, like the thunder laughs at the burning tree, or the shotgun laughs at the silence. And he thinks it's with him, so I don't say that none of those beautiful poems were about beautiful sex. Or at least not about sex that stayed beautiful, that the closest it came to staying was when I could say thank you for asking rather than thank you for being kind, which is another way of saying thank you for not hurting me, which is another way of saying thank you for not hurting me in ways I did not ask for. And I did not ask for this man to ask me this question on this night, not with his teeth full of admiration. Like all he could taste of me was my neck, the flesh so eager to bruise like an overripe apple, like sin, and he is still laughing like a snake, his tongue flickering like a fire, like God in the garden, commanding me to reveal myself. And I am afraid here of this friendly scalpel, this question of acid, the assumption that there is desire once everything else is burned away. And I have been laughing too long to not know when my teeth are bared, and bared too many times to not know my body is an unloaded gun, the spent copper clicking against the roof of my mouth. And this poem is not about explosions. This poem is not about torn flesh or confrontation or rape or a stranger asking me an innocent question on a guilty night. This poem is a rifled barrel realizing it has been years since it burned, and despite every stranger claiming it was made for fire, claiming its hollows were made to be filled with burning and rushing, it is a still and peaceful thing, and it wants to stay that way. Let's lighten the mood a little bit. Maybe a little bit. All right. So I'm gonna plan on 3 more poems. All right. And they're all from the chapbook that I brought here tonight, Screen, which I'm very happy to have been able to bring now. I have 9 copies of it. You can dibs or fight to the death or whatever you want to do. I believe in you.
Bring it on, motherfuckers. Bring it on.
I'll kick you in the nuts.
I got nothing to
Don't kick me in the nuts.
No, Mike.
That is not a thing you should do.
The other Mike. It's a penny war.
All right. So something a little bit lighter, and then 2 poems that are sort of going back and forth between. In a world.
Yes!
I believe in it. In a world with just so many penises. Like, so many. They're flopping around everywhere. One cisgendered man awakens to find his penis missing. Seriously. He's like a Ken doll. His penis posts MRA talking points on Twitter. It has more followers than he does and thinks it's good at math. One cisgendered man is ready to fight back against his own cock, to claim what is his, which would be everything, except he has no cock, and therefore no rights, because that's just how that works. Fuck that guy. Let's focus on the cock. Let's always focus on the cock in a world that is full of cocks and also full of injustice against cocks. In a world that is throbbing with injustice, one cock stands up for its right to be a total dick. One cock knows it's like so hard to be right about literally everything. One cock is loaded up and ready to shoot back. One cock is like so over the feminist, homosexual, Muslim, atheist, like Jew conspiracy agenda thing. It is seeing through the bullshit. Shit is from butts. This cock is not down with butt stuff. Unless they're girl butts. This cock is hella straight and bends slightly to the right. It's a one cock army. An uncontrollable penis train taking on the forces of evil. One self-absorbed conversational derailment at a time. One cock is ready to say, I'm a huge cock. Suck it. Starring Seth Rogen. And introducing Benedict Cumberbatch as the cock. Coming soon to literally fucking everywhere. You're welcome.
So much for the death match.
Wayne, you're such a
So much for the other death match. Consent, guys. Consent. Consent.
Yeah. This is like the last time I was on stage at Pony. Alright. So, this poem is for my good friend Tim Johnson.
Eat a dick, Mike.
You're welcome, Tim. I love you.
I know him.
Who sat through a long bus ride with me. So this is dedicated to him. Underscore fuck you buddy. Love you. Epigram is by John Scalzi. Then try this. It's real and taking place in a dream, because how else can your dead talk to you? So we're inside the author's apartment. It's morning. Books enclosed cover every available surface, and the author, mid-20s, male-bodied, white passing, is cross-legged on his bed in a nest of blankets. Typing on a netbook, a large cup of coffee rests on the nightstand. He is unshaven and looks hungover, and the author stares at his computer like he's drowning. And he says, a dying thing presented to a dying thing, and he grabs and sips coffee without looking up, severed from their growing and wrapped in two knocks, echo through the apartment, and the author jumps and spills coffee in his lap and says, fuck, and gets off the bed and walks to the door and opens it and squints at the sunlight like he's looking at it from underwater, and the boy is standing at the door, and he looks exactly like the author, except he's got scars across his face and neck that disappear into his shirt like fish in a muddy stream, and he's holding a cup of coffee like a knife or a mask, and ink stains cover his hands, and the author says, I guess I knew this was coming. And the boy says, don't be afraid. You're not crazy. And he smiles like a listing ship, and he says, at least not crazy like that, and he runs a hand through his hair and chuckles, and he says, can I come in? It's kind of awkward starting this conversation through a doorway. It's like talking into a mirror or a lake, or you're scared I might start writing you instead of the other way around, and the author frowns and steps aside and waves the boy forward, and the boy steps in, and his head tracks side to side like a snake, something meant to grant perfect knowledge at the cost of pain, and the author closes the door. Quiet, his hands press the wood frame before he straightens and lets the handle go. When he turns into the room, his head spins and he wobbles like a rainbow or a storm cloud full of water and uncertainty and falling, and the boy sits cross-legged on the bed and says, you've been writing me for 2 years now. Over and over. Of course I wear your face and your body and all your scars. Every one you've written, they get deeper every time, and the author stands like a broken mast and leans against the wall. And the boy gets up from the bed and grabs the author by both wrists and says, nah, look. And the boy puts the author's hands up against the boy's face, and the flesh blurs like paper, and the scars widen and open until the flesh under him is visible, and there's no blood, just more flesh and more scars, and the ink stains crawl off the boy's hands like a child leaving its crib, and they cling to the author's wrist like handcuffs and hold him together, and the author, like a child or a prisoner, and aren't those really the same thing, says, I don't understand, and the boy laughs like a seized engine, says, you've been using me for an anchor. Something to keep you from drifting into deep water, something to hold on to when you feel like the current and the boat both. And every time you say you heal yourself, and the author interrupts like an iceberg and says, I'm always drifting though, always being washed away. And how do you expect me to swim when every sandbar is already spitting up riptides like I will if I let him grab me? And the boy looks at the author's hands like they were a life preserver or a snake and says, it's not the worst thing, drowning. Better than breathing air you don't like, and who knows, you might just grow gills. And the author stares at his hands like a storm stares at a sailor. His mouth opens slow and closes like he just surfaced, and he says nothing, and the boy shakes his head slow, and there's a calm ocean in the bones of his face, the perfect knowledge of pain and breathing through it. And he says, I'm not asking you for dishonesty. It's just if you think what you're writing is alive, you owe us a better life than just your scars. You owe us more than just your drowning. Give us your joy too. The way the sunny days spit up diamonds when they hit the water. We gotta be good for more than just spitting up your hurt until you're empty. And the author spits up a lighthouse and pulls his hands apart, and the apartment is full of water and drowning and diamonds, and says, I've been writing you the same way a hatchet writes a rope, or wreckage writes the ocean. How is it when my ghosts visit me, they argue against the faces I've given them? The boy says, no face is an argument. That's what ghosts are for, and I know you love me the same way. I know you love ocean or sunrise, but if we're the same, you're carving yourself. If your writing is a way of speaking yourself whole, author says, I'm not trying to speak myself. Boy leans forward slow and kisses the author between the eyes like a current kisses every ship it holds, or a child kisses its father, says, you got a hell of a lot of drowning there. And that's not the worst thing. Feel that heavy in your chest, that's not just water. Breathe. The author coughs like a breaking wave or a breaching iceberg, and the boy laughs and walks to the door and opens it and leans forward onto the jamb, and his hand leads the ink onto the wood and leaves a stain. When he pulls away, it looks like a ship's mast, and the author laughs like a sailor who's fallen overboard and been pulled back to a ship he thought was empty, and says, of course you bleed ink. Every writer's hallucinations gotta bleed ink. It's just how this goes. And the boy turns his head and smiles, and the compass slides from his mouth to the floor, and he says, "I never said I was original. There's an albatross around here somewhere waiting for you to kill it." The boy walks out the door and closes it quiet, like a fire closes a sail, and the author pushes himself in the wall and breathes, and walks through the closed door careful like a ship approaches a harbor, and he kneels to pick up the compass, and it burns his fingers, but he holds on, and he laughs at the wind and says, "I never figured I'd owe my poems a big life. Life. They talk back when I crash their lives into mine, and the author doesn't feel like he's nearly earned the right to narrate his own epilogue. So he sits cross-legged on his bed and starts telling new stories. And there's scars and oceans both. He stares at the screen, and his hands are still like the ocean, and he is still like a rainbow or a storm cloud, something full of uncertainty and falling. He sips coffee without looking at it and drowns beautiful. He holds the compass. Smoke curls into the air, smelling of salt and ink. The author runs his fingers over his keyboard like ships run over drowning sailors. Beautiful and full of a weight that realizes it exists only in crushing, and the way it cuts through beautiful things and says, "I wish I could have known that boy better." The time he spoke, I felt my writing navigating itself. It was like